What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Jump to Start Racing podcast. My name is Wellington. I am here with two of my closest friends. Ruben, say hello.
What's going on?
Yhancy.
Hi. He was just laughing right now, by the way. Look at the welcome.
I couldn't.
He couldn't keep up the face.
We were
Apologize
just talking about some
I
stuff
apologize.
before getting started.
Hi.
Yes. Guys, how was your weekend?
Too short.
Yes. Fun weekend, actually.
Yeah, of course.
Fun weekend. A lot of unexpected things, especially in F1. It was great.
So, I mean, before we talk about the race that happened this weekend, Baku, fantastic race, let's talk about a little bit of news. Singapore Grand Prix officially canceled.
Are we ever going to get to go?
Maybe next year?
Maybe. Ruben and I were planning on going to the 2020 Singapore Grand Prix,
Gives us
and
more time
obviously, due to world events, we were not able to go this year again.
We didn't make plans for that one, though.
Actually, here's the question I have for you guys. So it was canceled. Are we going to have an Asian Grand Prix this year? China was canceled earlier this year as well.
They might. Actually,
Japan is the only one left.
They might have. There's talks about that what is it? Beijing was one of the venues they might replace it with. Was one of them.
Really?
That they're thinking about.
That and Austin. I'm just upset because that would be one of the tracks that I singled out that Ferrari might actually have a chance at winning.
Singapore.
Yes.
Singapore.
Because they're good at low speed corners. And that would be one of the tracks that Ferrari would be good at.
If they don't
tracks.
cheat.
Street tracks.
If they don't cheat.
Why are you bringing this up?
No.
This is over now.
No, I'm not talking about
This is all over.
I'm not talking about the cheating engine.
It's all over. Everything's on merit.
For 2 weekends straight, that I think they've been cheating.
How?
Wow. All right.
How?
So hold on. All right.
Let's
so
go back.
Singapore canceled, obviously due to COVID. I'm
Can't.
questioning if the Japanese Grand Prix will go forward. There have been talks of potential replacements for Singapore, including.
If the Olympics don't go through with it, then they're going to cancel Suzuka.
Okay.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
No. So the replacement. Wow, we're all over the place today.
Olympics?
Because
so-
the Olympics are in talks about being canceled also. So
Gotcha.
because of the high COVID rates in Japan right now.
Yeah. So obviously we're still facing this in the world. Austin, there's a potential doubleheader in Austin to replace they want to hit the 23 races for the year. So they were talking about potential replacing of doing a doubleheader at Austin as a replacement, doing a race in Beijing or the Chinese Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think? It's got to be Austin, right?
Yeah,
More than likely
of
it'll be
course.
Austin.
It'll more than likely be Austin, right? And
Yhancy wants to go.
Yeah. Even if it's general admission.
is there anything
I'll
further
take
to
a blanket, I'll put it on turn 2 on the hill, or turn 1 on the hill.
And a 6 feet in each direction.
6 feet in each direction.
Stay away.
I'll make sure I bring signs. So
signs or Carlos signs?
Signs and you know what? I'll have a cutout of Carlos signs
Next to you.
next to me.
He skipped in. No ticket.
Is he 6 foot? Is Carlos Sainz 6 feet? Maybe.
I don't know.
That'll
Maybe
be
hold
none
them
of them
sideways, horizontally.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if there is 2 races in Austin, there's no reason why we should be missing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm putting you guys on the spot.
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. We're moving on. All right. So let's head into our race weekend review.
Gentlemen, a short view back to the past.
Okay. So
I still want to hear.
30 years ago, Nicky Lauda. What's that?
I still.
But you still don't know the whole thing.
No. It's not trivia time. So I don't.
No,
I don't
I'm
need
saying,
to-
but hey, but if you able to jump in,
He doesn't
you're
need
still
it
going to get
anymore.
your
He's
point.
actually, what are we tied?
we're tied right now in trivia.
We got a
So
nice little surprise for you guys next week.
Shoot.
I'm a little scared.
He's not. I'm not giving him the questions for that.
All right. So
How do you know I don't already have it?
Whoa.
Okay. So qualifying. Wow.
I think it's like we're frustrating him on purpose. Go ahead, qualifying.
All right, qualifying. Saturday in general, the crashes. Did everybody? No, not everybody crashed, but there were a significant amount of crashes in turn 15, which is coming out of the castle. There's a long, we'll call it a straight. It's a long runway with essentially a couple of kinks leading into turn 15. What ended up happening is you had a couple of guys. Max Verstappen, that was Saturday morning. Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Antonio Giovinazzi. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. If I named anybody that didn't crash.
LeClerc?
And LeClerc all crashed at turn 15 between Friday and Saturday. What happened? Yes.
What happened? At first, what I thought was that, remember they reprofiled turn 8, right?
Okay.
Turn 8, which is that little thing going up the hill in the castle section. So before they used to have a curb there where if you hit it too hard, the cars used to bounce off it and go into the wall. They flattened that out so you could literally go a little bit faster going into that section. So I thought maybe the cars were going into that section with more speed.
Okay. Because you thought 15 was after that section.
Well, it kind of is because it's a few kinks. Like he said, it's a few kinks, but they're going flat out on that. They're literally going flat out through that section.
So that's what I was going to say too. Like,
until they get to turn 15.
Is it a result of already carrying so much speed, starting from there, kind of stuff? Like
That's what I thought. And then the other theory was that there was a tailwind going through there, so they're going even faster if there's a wind behind them. But there's also now, and we heard this from various drivers, there's a bump near there. Just like in Monaco, you see that in Monaco, there's going into Portier, or going into the hairpin, there's like a bump that they have to avoid. Same thing, there's a bump there that they have to avoid, so I guess they weren't avoiding it, and they were just going straight into the wall. The car was losing traction, and a lot of guys got caught out there. LeClerc was the first one, I think, on Friday. Max on Saturday. And then you had a few people. I think it was a Stroll and Tsunoda during qualifying.
Yeah.
So.
But if you look at the people that crashed there, no seasoned guy, meaning Alonso, Hamilton, Vettel. None of those guys had any even issues there. As far as like near miss or crashing, because.
So you're saying it's a young boy thing? That's actually a good observation. But I mean, who usually gets the? I mean, the quicker guys now are the young ones when it comes to qualifying, except for maybe Hamilton. But Hamilton was nowhere this weekend. You have Verstappen up there. You had Leclerc. Max crashed. So they're going balls to the wall.
They're pushing.
Yeah, they're pushing it. So.
All right. So as far as the qualifying itself,
what is your take on that?
My take is that I think it was a tailwind. That it only makes sense to me because there were so many issues on Saturday. There weren't any issues on Sunday. There was on Friday.
There was a few issues on Friday though.
Yeah,
but it was just so concentrated during specific times that to me it's like, yo, this can't be anything track related as far as turn 8 or like obviously the bump I didn't hear about, but as far as I saw, it had to have been something was
that
happening.
Speed bump, Jens?
No, it wasn't a speed bump. It was just a bump, bro. That's what they say.
Policía Acota.
I was gonna say that, but nobody's gonna know what the hell it is.
No, but to me, because it was in such concentrated time, that it only made sense that it was a wind issue. But I mean, whatever. As far as the qualifying itself, we saw, as far as surprises, Danny Ricciardo couldn't get out of Q2. What's going on here? This is now the second straight disappointing outing from Danny Ricciardo in qualifying. Last time, obviously, it affected him greatly during the race because it was Monaco. This time,
I think he's just been getting caught out there, like just having bad luck. As far as like when it comes into him pushing, or the lap that he is pushing on, either hitting traffic or in this occasion, I think it was like a red flag that failed him on this side. Because remember, we had like 4 red flags.
No, not in Q2 though.
I don't think he's anywhere, man. I don't think.
Why are you
I don't-
trashing my man like that, man?
Well,
Like
really?
My boy, he's gonna make it. Why are you losing faith so quick?
The way you said, I didn't say that he wasn't.
Oh, okay.
He's just not driving well. He just hasn't gotten to grips with the car. Lando said it before the weekend that he's had to change his driving style to drive the car because it's not an easy car to drive.
Gotcha.
So, I mean,
For the better.
and
too, for
Lando has been on the team, this is his third year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he has some kind of experience with that car because it's the same chassis as last year. Ricciardo has no experience, so he has to change his driving style. And if you look at Ricciardo's history, it usually takes him about half the season to get his foot under. He is getting better. I don't know what has happened, during these past few races. Maybe it's because it's a street circuit. The winds are catching him. I don't know. Maybe they can't turn on the tires because that's been a common issue too, especially because the track temperature is not consistent throughout the track because you have buildings blocking the sun. It's a lot of things, but he's not driving well right now. But he got to get his act together because the other three drivers that we talk about as far as that group of four that changed teams, we're talking about Perez, Sainz, Ricciardo,
And Vettel.
They had pretty good weekends the past few weeks. I mean, the past two races, being Monaco and Azerbaijan. So he kind of got to get his act together by this point.
Do you guys think that maybe that I'm going to say this, that the McLaren is a diva car in the way that the Mercedes was a diva car 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago, in that they couldn't find the right zone to get the car working in? And I'm referencing Lando's comments saying that it's been difficult for him to get used to driving the car. And then obviously Ricciardo himself, being an experienced driver, is usually pretty good at being able to find the sweet spot. It did take him some time with the Renault, but I think what the issue was with the Renault is that it was just a bad car to start. Sorry. It was a bad car to start.
What the hell was that?
If you're watching on YouTube,
What the hell was that?
it's a bug, bro.
Oh, the fly?
Oh my God! So
we got a fly hanging
no,
around.
the Renault was a bad car to start, and as it got better, obviously it made Ricciardo just seem better. So is the McLaren a diva? Are they still kind of figuring out the Mercedes engine? Are they still kind of figuring out that in combination with the tires, in combination with their own aerodynamics and chassis?
I think so. There was a lot. I mean, I think that the cutting not cutting the corners, but the floor changes have affected these teams a lot more than what we thought or that anybody else thought it would. I think what's helped McLaren though is that they have a better engine in the car, so they can make up a lot of their losses aerodynamically. With how quick that engine is, especially in a race like Azerbaijan where you have that long straight. Contrary to what you thought, is what I told you was that I thought the Ferrari was actually a better car aerodynamically, and it's been proven correct. I just don't think that McLaren has gotten on top of it, really. I think that they're being helped by the Mercedes engine in the back of that car.
I think so too.
But they also have two really good drivers. I mean, Ricciardo's not driving well right now. Lando's carrying that team. So the driver skill also plays into it. But Ricciardo has to get his act together because right now Ferrari seems to be improving and they're going to the back, and you also have Aston Martin coming through. And they seem to be getting better, and they seem to be making more updates to the car because it seems like they're more focused on updating this car. Right now, they're more focused on updating the current car so they can be better during this year than switching over to the 2022 car, which
Okay.
we spoke about last week.
Other qualifying surprises. Now we're going to get into Q3 and how that kind of shook out. So obviously the top story here is... Go ahead, Yhancy.
Charlie! Woo!
Charles LeClerc got a monster toe. What was it, from Bottas or was it from Hamilton? From Hamilton in the first run of that
Q3.
of Q3, and nobody even came close to that time. He won he got the pole position by over 0.2 of a second over Hamilton, over Verstappen. Granted, everybody was, because of the crash of Yuki Tsunoda and then Carlos Sainz right behind him, we didn't really get to see a full qualifying and then like what exactly these guys could bring, with that final run.
So the way it broke down was Hamilton obviously gave it, unintentional toe, but Leclerc happened to just be there and use them, whatever. So, but in between that time, there was also, was that one Stroll crash? No, that was when Giovinazzi crashed.
That was in Q1.
Something.
So
in the
we're
between, there was a
talking-
pause. No, in Q3,
Yeah,
there was a
the pause in
between.
Q3 was Yuki Tsunoda crashing and then Carlos Sainz trying to avoid him.
But that was what ended.
But they had already.
What was the pause in between? Just pretty much everybody just in the pits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was an incident. No, in my head,
it was everybody
in my head was
into
like
the
an
pits
incident in there.
because it's usually the pause and they go.
And then
out
it
for
became,
that.
it was,
It's the banker lap, which is the they got to put in the.
they came to refuel, blah, 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 and all that stuff.
Yeah, the banker lap.
banker
That's
lap.
what they call it, a banker lap.
Yeah.
So
And then you come to
you put
refuel.
in a lap just in case. Charlie got the fastest lap there, and then they come in. They set up the cars better, and then they go in for the second one.
And that's at the time that everybody just went out.
Everybody went out.
So
But nobody could get a lap in.
At one point, it looked like months all over again because it was just, everybody was being,
Yes,
It did, actually.
It did actually.
everybody was holding each other back and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
So-
and it was,
I think it was Bottas and
Bottas
Leclerc.
holding everybody up.
yeah,
Because Bottas didn't want to go.
because he wanted to get a tow from Hamilton. That was, he had given the tow to Hamilton. He wanted to get the tow from Hamilton. So back to Ferrari. Yhancy, what are we? So Leclerc set that lap 141.218. Carlos, let's go to Hamilton. Hamilton behind Leclerc in second place, 141.450. Carlos Sainz was just a tenth behind him, 141.576.
What?
Is Ferrari back?
No,
Give
On
me
a
some
one
more.
lap.
Give me some more.
On a one lap, maybe.
not even on the one lap. They're not back. They don't have the engine power. I think there's certain aspects. Obviously, they're better aerodynamically, but they just don't have the engine power, and you can see it throughout the race. Are they better? Yes, but I think it's just circumstances. The reason why Leclerc has these two poles is honestly is the car is better, but they're on street tracks. They're better aerodynamically, so there are better times where through that castle section where they have the slow speed corners. Everybody else was faster than them in the high speed parts of the track.
Okay.
So their engine is not as powerful as the Honda or as the Mercedes. They do have better aerodynamics because they're very good through the slow corners. But I think it's just circumstances. And also, remember, driver skill also plays a part in it. It's not just the car. And you have Leclerc, who has proven to be very proficient during qualifying as far as being great on one lap and just pushing. And he's proven it. If he has the car, he can put it on pole. He's proven it 9 times already throughout his career.
Well, a lot of that was the cheating engine too, so we
Yep.
can't,
If he has the car, he puts it on pole. Just like if Lewis Hamilton has the best car, he puts it on pole. That's why he is the best qualifier in all of F1 history. If you have the car, you put it on pole. Not everybody can do that, clearly.
Yeah, look at Bottas.
Because Max Verstappen has a very good car, right? But he doesn't always put it on pole. He's not the best qualifier.
So, do you think they have a pretty good balanced car?
Yes, they do,
They
but
don't
it's
have- they don't
just
have the
not
top
as
end
good
speed.
as the other one.
They don't have
Yeah.
the.
They don't have the
miss it.
top end speed, no. And then it does have. I mean, obviously, it's based on last year's chassis, which wasn't very good. They've done better as far as working out certain things aerodynamically where they can be faster. It doesn't have as much drag because last year's car was super draggy. But it's just not, it's a better car, but it's not up there to compete with Mercedes or Red Bull. It's not, those are the benchmarks this season.
Do they
Can
have
they-
a better car than McLaren?
I think they have a better chassis. They have better aerodynamics, but they don't have a better engine.
Gotcha.
So when it comes to a high speed track, I think McLaren takes it.
Okay. So we talked about Daniel Ricciardo Lando Norris qualified 6th behind Carlos Sainz. So I'm going to go back and go through the order. Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen were the top 3. Number 4, which is another team I want to talk about. Again, my favorite team. Pierre Gasly, 4th. Yuki Tsunoda, 8th. Is the AlphaTauri back, or is it? It's just so hit and miss with this team. I'm not sure where. I think everybody's back, to be honest. And then it's just luck of the draw as far as who turns on the tires, like who has a good day. Like I'm not clear as to where we can put AlphaTauri, who had a great Bahrain or first race, and now they had a great Baku. Maybe it's tracks that start with the letter B. I don't know.
No, I think it's just driver skill. I think that's the difference. It's like the team and drivers. Obviously, Pierre Gasly has driven lights out this season. There's no doubt about that. But he has made his mistakes. Either they put him on a bad strategy, or he just hasn't been driving. He's been consistent the last few races, but I think he got off to a rough start during the first few races of the season. But also the team has put him in compromising positions also. It's just a matter of inexperience. They're not a team that has the experience of running close to the top of the midfield or even to the top of the entire grid. So I think that's the difference between them. But as that car has been good all year. It's a lot like Racing Point last year.
Yeah. I think
it's a good car. It's just like, but it's not only the car that gets you to the top. It's a combination of good teamwork, engineers, strategy, and your drivers.
I think the car is where the car should be, like where the car has shown that it needs to be at. That's where the car is at now.
Right.
It's not, nothing. I guess past that as far as they're not going to be as fast as McLaren, but
right. I mean, I think
or Ferrari, but they are where they should be. They're going to be right there, right on the heels. All of
the race for third is between Ferrari and McLaren, but very close, nipping at the heels is AlphaTauri.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As far as just pace, right? Because in the constructors, they're way back.
Right.
All right. So, I mean, that's pretty much the qualifying. We talked about the Ferrari pace. I guess I'll round out the rest of the top 10. It was Pierre Gasly 4th, Carlos Sainz 5th, Lando Norris 6th, Sergio Perez 7th. Just not, obviously got caught up in that. He was actually on track right behind Max Verstappen as they killed the qualifying.
I don't think we saw the true paces of each car during especially during Q3, just because of obviously you had Leclerc's crash in Monaco. You couldn't really see. Yeah, everybody saved the best for the end, and then you had the crash, Tsunoda's crash, and Carlos Sainz crashing out at the end of Q3. So, I think we're basing our opinion on pace of these cars is basically what we saw during the race.
So then we had Yuki Tsunoda 8th, as mentioned before. Fernando Alonso 9th. Okay. And Valtteri Bottas 10th, who got stuck not being able to get a tow. And then what a disaster for him this week. That kind of just sealed the deal for him, really, because he just couldn't pass anybody going in through the race. And the race itself.
But that's also, I'm sorry, but that's been consistent with Bottas. If he doesn't qualify at the top, he just stays in the back.
He can't pass.
He can't pass.
He seems uninspired. I don't know. Obviously, we're not gonna know.
It's the car.
I know. That's the thing. I don't know what these drivers are think. How we don't want to get into. I mean, we can't be in their heads, but it seems like with Bottas, it's not the same as like a Verstappen or a Hamilton, where if something goes wrong with them, they keep pushing and they wind up, with actually a pretty good result compared to where they started. Bottas seems to like give up. He seems to be uninspired, especially was in the back of the field. Same thing happened with him in Imola, and he crashed out, unfortunately.
I think
that wasn't his fault, but either way, it's still he ran a horrible race, and then he managed to run an even worse race this weekend that just passed.
I think what happens to him is that he has so much trouble with the car. Obviously, we know he's not a Max. We know he's not a Hamilton. So he has so much trouble to get the car balanced to be able to pass. Remember, we're talking about a car that was built to lead, to run on open air. So when you're in traffic so close to all these guys, if you get the tires too hot, you cook them. If you don't get enough air, you're running hot on the engine. So I think he fails to do the balance where Hamilton,
He puts it right on the knife's edge.
and let's go.
He
I
puts it
think
on the
Bottas
limit.
doesn't have that yet on the car. That's why he always has so much trouble getting out of the top 10, or getting to the front when he doesn't qualify
Or
well.
doesn't qualify up there.
Yes.
He's not a great overtaker either. So
It's easy to play defense when you have the best car.
no.
Because remember, when you're in the front and you hit traffic, they get blue flags, so they're supposed to let you through. But when you're fighting for position, they're not going to give you the position. Come and take it if you want.
Right.
So that's where he starts getting into trouble with the balance of the car.
Surprisingly, not enough. I don't know. I expected
That it doesn't happen to Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah?
But that's the thing. If Hamilton's in 10th, regardless if it's a track that you can overtake or not,
He'll finish third or second.
yeah, exactly.
And be careful he doesn't take the lead.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have a great weekend this weekend either. He was still running, second place. So
But we're talking about Hamilton, man.
All right, so the race itself, we had Charles Leclerc start on pole. He kept the position going through the first and second lap, and then it was just kind of academic for Hamilton to pass him. Then it was Verstappen, then Perez, kind of just like in the next couple of laps once DRS opened up.
Which was what we're talking about. They don't have the top end speed. So once we had the DRS and the toe,
Forget it. Yeah, it was
because I think Hamilton passed him even
Just with
before
the toe,
DRS.
yeah. on lap 2.
that was expected though. Because it's a track that it's not Monaco. Like if he had a fighting chance in Monaco, because you can't overtake in Monaco. It's just nearly impossible. But here, I mean, even though it's a street track and a lot of people crashed out, it's still pretty wide where you can get spaces where, especially after that long straight going into turn 2 or turn 1, I should say.
Yeah.
You can easily overtake. And you saw that that's what happened. That's why I said it before. They don't have the engine power, and you can tell on that straight. They have a pretty good car, but they just can't keep up with either the Honda or the Mercedes engine.
Right. So then we saw the Red Bulls and the Mercedes kind of pretty evenly matched, right? To the point where the overtake, when they started hitting the pits and the pit window for the soft tires, we saw the overtakes of Hamilton by Perez and Max via the pit. So it wasn't even an on-field or on the track overtake. I'm thinking baseball and football.
Football.
It wasn't on the pitch. It was wow.
It's on the track.
It's been a long day. But via the pit.
Yeah, it was in the pit.
Yeah. So even so Hamilton had a 4-point-something second pit stop, and then Perez had a 4-point-something second pit stop, but it looked like, I guess watching the race, that Hamilton couldn't get the tires activated in time to make a good lap coming out of the pit.
Seems to be a common theme with them in street tracks. They just can't turn the tires on.
And Red Bull is running. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are showing glimpse of what Red Bull to us or to me was, that they did not miss a beat.
Yeah, but
And they get a chance,
I'll
boom.
tell you what.
They reacted right away, and it worked.
Now we're
for
gonna
them.
go back to traditional tracks
Okay.
where the weather's getting hotter. The issue with Mercedes is that they cannot. They just don't seem to turn on. They can't get temperature in their tires. Remember, they had the DAS system last season.
Oh
Yeah, that was-
right. That's a great
Right?
point.
For the 2
That's a
years, huh?
great point.
No, just for 1 year, but they legalized. They illegalized. They outlawed. They outlawed it this season. I don't know what the hell's wrong with us today, but yeah, the FIA made it illegal this season. They banned it,
There you go.
which is the right way. They banned it this season, but last season they had that, because the DAS system wasn't just for them to go faster on the track. It was more of a tire warm-up issue where you can change the pitch of the tire so there's more tire on the track so you can warm it up. They don't have that this season anymore, right? So, and now when you get to street tracks, what happens with the street tracks is, even though the temperature may be hot, we're talking about it's surrounded by buildings. So you have one patch where the sun is shining on the track. Then you have other patches where you have shadows where the sun is not shining. So you're not getting the track temperature to help you out with that.
That's crazy.
So they just can't. The Red Bulls are better on turning. The Red Bulls and the Ferraris are actually better on turning on the tires, get them up to temperature where they run them up to speed. Mercedes struggles with that.
I think it's been a Mercedes issue. Not even prior to that. Like Mercedes has been having trouble getting the
but once you get to once you get to a traditional track where there's no buildings covering it, the tire temperature, it'll help them out. Yeah, it's not an issue.
Wow.
And it's gonna be hotter.
So that's a very interesting point, and I want to put a pin in this that we talked about the tire temperature. So Lance Stroll, lap 34. Yeah, lap 30, 33, 34. I don't remember the exact lap, but he started the race on hards and had not pitted to that point. Pirelli, our dear friends at Pirelli, who we all love.
Everybody loves them this weekend.
Yes.
Those guys.
Their prediction was that the hard tires should be able to go 40 laps, right?
Right.
They were even talking about on the broadcast that if you took care of them, if it was a Sergio Perez, you may be even able to go to like
The
45.
Yeah.
Like
Almost
the full length of the race. And then just come in and pit right at
Because
the
they were
end.
saying about
So
the
you
guys
can do
that
it one stop, do it one stint on the soft, and then switch to the hards and finish off the race. That is what was expected.
Yeah, because they were even saying a thing about Russell that I think he pitted like on the first lap or second lap.
Yeah.
And he went
To,
on the
right,
hards.
to get hards, to be able to go
Pretty much the whole length of the race.
Great point. So we saw Lance Stroll's, the rear left tire failed, causing him to lose control. Once you start losing control, then the aerodynamics holding the car down, gone.
Yeah.
Especially when you're going over 200 miles per hour on that straight. The fastest, I think that's probably one of the fastest points that they get
Throughout the whole year.
throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
I've never gone 200 miles an hour in a car, so
Yeah,
I've done 160. So
Isn't there a
close.
song, 200 miles? No, I'm kidding.
I've done like 150 and I'm like, wow. So imagine doing 200
205.
in a light car and your tire goes out on you. Recipe for disaster.
So when they slowed it down, it did not look like a nasty accident. Played in real time, though, I was like, yo, this guy is really going to get hurt. So we lost control on that straight, brushed the front of the car. And I say brushed, but the front of the car ends up going into the wall and then basically turning around and sliding. The back of the rear end of the car slides along the wall, right up against the pit straight. Safety car obviously comes out. They have to clean up all the debris. But right off the bat, not right off the bat, but already they start talking about, wow, that tire kind of just went on him. What happened with Pirelli? It was supposed to last the whole length of the race.
Right.
Any thoughts on the crash or on what that is foretelling?
What
Are we going to get that in the high speeds?
Here's the thing. Where it seemed to fail was not on the surface of the tire where the patch that hits the road, but the shoulder, meaning the sidewall where the sidewall meets the tread. That's what seemed to fail on that car. And I don't know what would cause that. Obviously you're running at high speeds, high temperatures.
I got the answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
It was debris on the track.
You think so?
That's what Pirelli said to cover themselves.
That's what they're always going to say. But they were the first ones. I don't know if you guys saw this on the coverage. They were the first ones to be right next to that truck, put a red bag over the tires so nobody can see it. And then when I think one of the Pirelli guys had a radio on, and the cameraman, obviously all cameramen, especially
they're
gonna go for the shot. They zoomed in on that spot where you saw the shoulder split open.
Whoa.
Inside, it was in the inside part, the shoulder split open, and they were literally just trying to cover that up. So of course Pirelli's were trying to cover their ass.
So the Pirelli guy was not trying to cover the car.
No, he was trying to cover the tire.
It's like, I don't want to get fired.
Yeah,
I'm here so I won't get fined.
yeah. He was trying to cover the tire.
Gotcha, okay.
And
Because
then-
normally that's what happens when they crash.
And let me
They
tell
put
you
like a cover in
something.
the car.
The reason why, and you mentioned this earlier, why that crash didn't look so bad was because obviously they have a ton of safety features, crumple zones, and all of that stuff. Thank God they have all that in place. But and when you see this footage, just look how far that car went.
Traveled, man.
Traveled after it hit the wall. That's how fast these guys were going. I mean, it felt like they just kept going infinitely because they're carrying speeds of 200 miles an hour.
What was that? It reminded me. What was that? Was it Alonso in Australia that the car just like launched and
Yes.
Yes. And launched
with,
and hit my microphone.
yeah.
That was with Gutierrez, right?
But then it
Yes,
just
that
like
was in Australia, though.
the car literally it exploded and it was just like the monocoque just rolling.
Right.
And he walked out.
Yeah.
And he walked out.
Same with like Brundle too, right?
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's just thank God for carbon fiber monocoques, but yeah, it was those are.
And
When
the
you're
safety
traveling
protocols.
imagine what it is. Thank God that there was no cars in the way. There was no
Yep.
cars coming after him. There was a complaint that the drivers had actually that
The safety car came out.
the safety car came out too slow, especially when you have a 200 mile an hour crash on a straight
On
like
that straight.
I mean, you mean the deployment of the safety car?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think they did a whole lap almost.
No.
Before it got deployed.
No.
It was like 30 seconds. They said
It was a long time.
It was like 30 seconds. You know, in 30 seconds is an eternity in
Yeah.
F1.
But the 30 seconds does not count to the safety car being deployed right after turn one. No, it's just because the car.
But it's not so much this. It's not so much the safety car, right? It's the drivers getting the notification on
the dash.
on the panels and on the dash. Like, yo, you guys got to stop. You got to slow down.
But remember also when
Yeah, because at the beginning it was a double yellow. That's it.
it was a double yellow, but the double yellow only accounts for that sector.
Yeah, that's
It doesn't account for the entire track.
And they
so
said
these
on-
cars are still flying throughout the entire track.
Right. And then they tried to say that Michael Massey was upset with the drivers that they weren't slowing down enough for a double yellow. And it's like, yo, my guy, like,
The double yellow is in that area. That's it.
it's not just that, but like deploy the safety car. Like, this is how we lost. Not
And actually, that was, I mean, and that was the incident. I mean, the drivers pointed out that when that happened with Max, which we'll get to, but it's still, I feel on both ends when we're seeing it, it was like, why is there not a safety car like
Right away.
You got to stop the action, because what happens is also that these guys are racing. So if you're racing for position, so you're not just gonna, even if you do, you're not gonna stop, because you're not gonna want to lose a place until that safety car is deployed.
Right.
So deploy the safety car, stop the action, get them in the pits, clean up the debris, and then the other thing is that I noticed that in Baku, and again we see these back to back, right? We see Monaco, and
Baku
we see
to Baku.
Oh no, we see Monaco, Monte Carlo, and we see Baku, and we see this the not the stewards but the marshals in Monte Carlo. They clean up stuff like bam. It's like they're on it right away. Like but in Baku, they're really slow. And I don't know.
It's different
training.
because Monaco being such a compact track and it folds in on itself, a crane could pick up one side and then it's so
I'm not
easy.
blaming them. I'm just saying that
I
it's just different logistics as far as like
And the space
how
too.
fast you can clear an accident, especially. I mean, Baku's wider. It's long. It's a really long track. So I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying it's just that it takes a really long time in Baku for them to clear up a
What Yhancy's trying to say is that instead of having 3 minions with brooms, have like 10.
Well, they said on the broadcast that I think after Lance Stroll's crash, that they had like 4 street sweepers coming down the track, the main straight, to just pick up all the stuff because it was such a wide section. But from there, 14 laps later, we have the same. There were obviously, it was foretold already what would happen with Max Verstappen. So after the safety car restart, they went. It was chalk. Max, Perez, Hamilton. Max was 5-6 seconds ahead. I keep hitting the stupid mic. 5-6 seconds ahead,
That's my stupid mic.
and it was gonna be a automatic win, right?
For Max.
For Max. Lap 48, same thing on the straight. Rear left tire, I'm going to say delaminates or something happens.
It's
Splits.
definitely not a delaminate. It just splits. Because delamination is just like the tread coming
It's
off.
just graining.
Yeah.
So it splits, and then same nasty accident on the right side of the track. Thankfully, it was past the pit straight because that pit wall would have been a disaster if Max had hit that pit wall. From there, the safety car is deployed. Thank God Max had some kind of distance, even though you still see Perez and Hamilton pass right next to him and avoiding the debris, which is kind of crazy. They deploy the safety car. The race is red flagged due to, we'll get to that. The race is red flagged. Everybody comes into the pits because of this issue with the tires and the potential for an even more serious accident. So we've already had on the start finish straight, 200 miles per hour, 2 of these tire issue crashes.
With no warning,
With no
without
warning.
giving the pit wall warning about just being too hot or too degrading. Or
Right. So
whatever.
then go ahead, Ruben, tell us what Red Bull said.
No, Red Bull like pretty much immediately, like almost right after the Max incident, they just pretty much contacted, I guess, the
Michael
FIA,
Massey.
Michael.
Massey.
Michael does nothing, Massey, whatever.
Damn.
And to tell him right away, let him know, hey, this tire just went out. There was no warnings for us. It was not degrading. It was not even no temperature. No pretty much. It was no red flag towards us about. You should think about red flag. Red flag in the race because of potential other cars having the same issue.
Right. And everybody could just change their tires and get to the end safely.
Isn't it cool that we can hear that radio between the FIA?
That was super cool.
And they've done it the last few races. I thought it was very good insight.
So by doing that, obviously they're also trying to avoid that. I just thought about this, a heavier accident.
Of course.
But is it because they don't want it to end like it did in last year with with Ham finishing in 3 wheels and all this stuff?
No. I don't think that's
you don't think it was going to get to that level?
No, I think that you try to avoid an Antoine Hubert accident where
Gotcha.
the car behind them basically torpedoes
Yeah,
it.
that's pretty much.
You don't want, especially on that start finish straight, if somebody would have driven into Stroll, or it would have been over.
Yeah, toast.
I mean, the communication between Red Bull and the FIA, that's what the Red Bull pit wall was trying to convey, or did convey to Michael Massey and the race directors, was that, listen, we've had 2 tire issues. They've had no warning. You should really red flag this race so everybody can at least come into the pits and be able to change their tires. Because obviously the tires are not lasting as long as Pirelli hoped that, or said that they would. Obviously you take Pirelli at their word as far as how long those tires would last because they manufacture the tires. So I think that was really the issue at hand. It's like, all right, we've had 2 literally random crashes where the same tire on the same side
And the
blows
same area.
up, and the same area blows up on you. And of course Pirelli came out and blamed that it was debris because they found
Twice.
they found some
ant.
No. They found they found like a slash or something on Lewis Hamilton's tire,
At the end of the race.
and that was one of those that was evidence that there was maybe debris on the track. But I don't know, bro. I mean, the same tire, it's just they really need to get on top of that.
Is it also because that's the area where the tire is getting the most weight as far as between speed and obviously force? Because remember, there's also like a little kink right before
The little
that.
kink is a right turn, so you're putting pressure on the right side. Is that accurate? No, on the left side. Yeah, sorry. Just trying to...
He's picturing himself in the game.
Yeah. No. So, no, you're right. So, in that kink, you're already going at pretty fast rate, and you're putting additional pressure, and you're doing that every lap, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, so that's it's because of that little area. I'm not saying obviously Pirelli should make up for, to make the tire safety for that, safe for that area. But I think that's where you will say that the tire goes into the most, I would say, highest pressure point because of speed and the force that you're fighting to get out of there.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
But they should anticipate that.
Of course, not cover it up.
Yeah, I mean they shouldn't. Again, it's
Yeah, see,
you're putting people's lives at risk.
Was it like a red towel? What they put on top?
It
of
was a red garbage bag.
They were ready for that.
Yeah,
It was to cover the debris that
Yeah.
made it pop. You know.
Yeah, no, it was a red garbage bag.
You know how like when all the crashes, every debris gets taken away and it's not given. You know, it's not leaving for people to grab. So they put the cover so it will cover the debris that was being held by the tire. You know, the debris that's left the tire.
I should have brought my tinfoil hat for you.
Yeah. So, all right. So from there,
What does that mean?
No,
conspiracy theories, man.
Conspiracy. Yeah, that antenna, bro, is just coming in, and you're just like spitting it all out. Whatever comes into your mind, bro.
So from there,
You got anything else that's good that's coming through the airways, man?
What is it like? Okay.
Real squirrely today.
there were three laps left. Did a formation lap, and then there was obviously still the 3 laps, but we end up with a.
Hold on a second. I just thought about it. Is there? What happened?
No.
No, because like it was super. Obviously, to me, it was also super confusing. Like, okay, the red flag the race. Are they gonna, before they even announced they were gonna restart the race? Is that like the norm? Like, can they just call the race completely? Like, do they have to finish the amount of laps that it's set for and stuff like that? That's like pretty much my.
I think you have to finish the race distance,
the race distance.
and it's up to the stewards or race director, race director, which is Michael Massey, whether it's a rolling start or a standing start. Usually, when it's a red flag, it's a standing start, unless there's like rain or
Gotcha.
something like that. So they'll do a rolling start because it's safer.
Rolling start.
Yes.
All right. So from there,
Car style.
we have a a standing start after the formation lap. After another formation lap, we saw, if you've seen the race highlights, and we'll put them in the race notes or the show notes. You see in the restart, Lewis Hamilton, his brakes are smoking. They're that hot. Fire. Based on they restart. He gets a jump on Perez, so he's already ahead. Perez tries to fight him. Lewis Hamilton.
When he got ahead of him, were you guys excited with that?
It's tough.
So he got ahead of him, but I didn't know if he'd be able to keep it into turn 1 because he was so far on the inside. He'd have to really slam on the brakes and lose a ton of momentum to be able to make that turn.
So I mean, Perez would probably be able to jump him back.
Right, because Perez, what we saw from Perez was he defended so far inside. He just pinned him to the inside, and with those cars, with those cars that size, it would be very hard. It reminded me of 3 years ago, Perez. Was it 3 years ago? Perez and Ocon, that they ended up getting in a collision in turn 1 because they didn't leave each other enough space. So I thought that Perez would be able to make it to do the overtake at the end, or like at the end of that straight, or they collide.
Yeah.
What did you think as far as that start? You asked the question.
I actually thought that Hamilton had him.
I think so too. I was just excited. I was like, whoa! Like
I think he had him. But I think it's just that I guess he came in so fast. That's probably why he couldn't really put on the brakes. So that's why it seemed. Here's the thing: he got a better start than Perez.
Way better
start than Perez, but he couldn't brake on time because obviously the brakes were shot. I mean,
Right.
You can
No.
check over here. So because it's what is it
the
Magic
magic
brake
button.
magic?
The
The brake magic.
not blue magic.
This is something that he mentioned. Lewis Hamilton mentioned over the radio that he had messed with the brake magic over the course of the formation lap, and that he may have pressed it again going into turn 1. So the brake magic was that. What that does is it takes the brake balance from the rear of the car and brings it to the front. I think he brings it up close to 90%. I think it was 86% that they brought it up. So remember I said, hey, put a pin in the tire warming Mercedes thing. So the brake magic allows them to put more heat into the tires
Correct. Via the brakes.
via the brakes
So
because
the calipers are pressing harder on the brakes, generating more heat.
and it's
which
not
in
being
turn-
transferred to the MGUK.
No.
They're keeping the energy in the tires. So now, as a function of trying to warm up the tires, they screwed up this race because they still had issues with warming up the tires. No DAS system, as you guys talked about earlier, and now he accidentally, or may have left it on the brake balance, so it caused them to fly past turn one.
Right. So that's why he was carrying so much speed. That's why it looked like he was ahead. Because he was just carrying so much speed that he couldn't brake on time. That's why he just kept going.
Well, no, obviously.
So even like
we
that,
saw that because he locked up the tires and just went
but
right straight.
even if he did get a good start, it would have been tough for him to make that corner on time. He would have to brake early, and I think Perez would have still been ahead,
Gotcha.
barely, but he still would have had the corner. So it would have been more interesting, obviously, if he didn't hit that button where he turned on the what they call brake magic now. I always get these crazy terms. But I think Perez still would have been ahead. Now, what would have been interesting though, you go turn one, going down that next DRS straight
After turn two.
I think maybe there, just like Leclerc did with Gasly, he would have.
Even though Gasly
He would
got
have tried to get him there, even though Gasly came
got
out
him.
ahead. But it was still a good battle. I think it would have been a very similar battle because
Yes.
Perez did not get a very good start.
No, he even said it. He
He didn't get a
horrible
very
start.
good start. And then obviously, when you go into that corner, if you don't take the apex, if you don't get a good exit off that corner, you're slowing down.
You have to slow down.
Yeah,
because,
which gives
A guy like
Hamilton a chance to get close to him or even get ahead of him at that point. But obviously, that didn't happen. One of the funniest things I saw was commentary. It's obviously it's very short from the start to that corner, and on commentary you hear, I think it was Mark Webber, when Lewis Hamilton kept going straight, he started screaming like a little girl. He goes, "Ah!" because he saw Hamilton going straight. It was one of the funniest things. Go look at it on Instagram on the F1 page. It's hilarious.
All right, so from there, Sergio Perez ends up winning the race. Hamilton slips all the way down to, I think it was 16th. Sergio Perez wins the race. Sebastian Vettel, second place.
Two.
Then Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris in a three-way fight for third place.
That was fun. That's probably what it would have looked like between
In the front.
Perez and Hamilton. Just like that, because you had two very similar. You had three cars actually that were similarly matched. Going, heading down those DRS zones. You see that Leclerc was able to
pass him.
but
Briefly.
then Gasly came back in the next.
But Norris was right there, like trying to, hey, now it's my turn.
Norris was just was taking advantage of the fight.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah.
And then at
I think that's-
the last second, Leclerc saw him and was able to block him off.
I think that's
why.
why maybe Leclerc backed off a little bit, because hey, I'm probably going to be in a position here losing 2 spots. Let me-
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Like I might be in danger losing 2 spots because this kid is running behind me. He's probably going to catch a bunch.
But also there you can see that and what I was mentioning earlier, that the Honda engine and the Mercedes engine are just better, and the straight drag race are better than the Ferrari engine, which is why I hesitate to say that Ferrari's fully back.
So I'm going to run down the full race results, and then we're just going to kind of do a little bit of analysis. So Sergio Perez won the race, as we talked about. Full 25 points, beautiful. Sebastian Vettel, second. Third place, Pierre Gasly. Fourth, Charles Leclerc. Fifth, Lando Norris. Sixth, Fernando Alonso. Seventh, Yuki Tsunoda. Eighth, Carlos Sainz. Ninth, Daniel Ricciardo. And 10th, Kimi Raikkonen. Beautiful points for Alfa Romeo. So obviously the big story coming out of this is Sergio Perez being able to win his first race with Red Bull. What do we think there, guys?
He did everything he was supposed to do. obviously it was going to be if the tire hadn't blown up, it would have been a Red Bull 1-2.
Which would have been the first time in a long time.
Right. He didn't qualify. He didn't have a good Saturday. Perez didn't have a good Saturday, which was what he needs to do.
That is common with Perez, though.
Yeah, but either
Not
way,
having good Saturdays.
he doesn't have a good Saturday, but he needs to get better.
Mr. Sunday?
Because he needs to be able to qualify up there, because you can see the difference this race. When you had two Red Bulls up there, Mercedes only had one car. The Red Bulls were dictating the pace, even though they didn't start. They didn't start up front. Remember, you had Max starting in third place, and Perez had a great jump at the start, made up like 2 places, and was already behind Max at the race. Now, with Bottas being in the back, 10th place, now you have 2 Red Bulls fighting a Mercedes. Who won out eventually? It was the 2 Red Bulls, even though, and they also had the faster car. But either way, they can still push the pace. They can still push the strategy. And what happens? Something freak accident happens. Unfortunately, Max drove well and he deserved to win that race. But it was a freak accident. It was just one of those things. His tire blows up, but who's there to pick up the scraps? And who still got points? It was Sergio Perez, because he's running up there.
It wasn't always an easy win for him, though.
No, it's not. But what happens is that you have the Drivers' Championship, which stays the same, because obviously Max and Hamilton didn't score any points. But the difference maker in the Constructors' Championship is that Red Bull extends their lead, because Sergio Perez is able to win that race and get them 25 points.
Right, so Sergio
And
Perez...
Mercedes?
0.
Sergio Perez, as Yhancy said, did exactly what he was supposed to do. Picked up the slack when his teammate went out. So, by extension, Valtteri Bottas. What? We talked about him earlier. Terrible qualifying. Just could not make up any places.
Didn't work for him.
Nothing worked for him.
No, he had a...
Not even saying something like
He
that.
drove uninspired. I think it's just one of those things where I guess the weekend didn't start well for him, because he couldn't get to Baku on time because his private jet was stuck. And it just rolled down from there. It's just you have to fight through adversity, and the best drivers
not able to do.
The best drivers are able to do that. You see that consistently from those top tier drivers on the grid.
So what if I told you?
Bottas is not able to do that. I don't know what it is, man.
What if I told you, right?
Yes.
You lose Max Verstappen, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon. Hamilton has an issue, finishes the race basically second to last after the restart. So there's 4 cars total DNF. Russell, Verstappen, Stroll, Ocon. Latifi, last. Hamilton, 15th. Bottas finished 12th.
In a full race.
In a full race behind both Alfa Romeos, behind...
Uninspired. On a track that you definitely have the power to overtake.
I think it's the car failing him.
Car failing him.
Well, meaning him failing to get the car the proper place.
So he's failing to get the car.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah. All right, so that's first place.
And listen.
And 12th place.
Bottas is a second driver for a reason. He's going to have his off races. He does this every year. But when most of the time, I'm going to say most of the time, when Mercedes needs him to pick up points, or when Hamilton's having an off day, most of the time, Bottas comes through. It's just, we're comparing him to Hamilton, and Hamilton's the GOAT. So, yes, he had a bad race. Yes, he deserves the criticism, but he's not bad. And honestly, the past few races, he's driven well. He's just had bad luck. He's there. He has been doing for the past, 3 years he's been with Mercedes, what Sergio Perez did for one race with Red Bull, and no other driver has been able to do in that second Red Bull seat. So, let's hold off on Bottas for a little bit, man. I'm gonna defend him here.
All right, so
So take him back to the spa, whatever, so he could clean some stuff.
Show his arse.
Yep.
second place, Sebastian Vettel.
In what car?
Second straight race where he's scoring good points. He's on the podium for the first time in Aston Martin. It's Aston Martin's first time.
Since
As
being
a
back.
podium, yeah. They never had a podium before, even when they were Aston Martin before.
Oh,
It's their
shit.
Correct.
first
It was
podium.
their first podium. So
Whoa.
we happen to have just talked about this last week. Is Aston Martin gonna be able to claw away more points? Are they going to be able to start attacking the Ferraris and McLarens of the world?
It depends on one thing and one thing only.
What's that?
Stroll.
I guess not then.
Because what we see is, especially when you're fighting atop of the midfield, is not so much. It's not the same as when you're fighting at the top of the grid, where you have one driver and you don't have another driver taking points off of them, but you have two consistent drivers, but you have one driver who's the main focus. When you're fighting at the top of the midfield, you have to have two drivers scoring points consistently and being consistent, which is, remember, top of the midfield last season was McLaren. Lando and Sainz were pretty evenly matched throughout the whole season.
Yes.
They were both very consistent drivers.
They were very back and forth.
Yes. When Racing Point was, when it was Force India, and you had them finishing fourth, top of the midfield, because it was a three-way race between Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes. You had Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon before he left the sport. Two consistent drivers, very evenly matched, scoring points, again, consistently. If you are going to fight at the top of the midfield with Ferrari and with, you have Ferrari and you have McLaren. You have Ferrari, you have Carlos Sainz and Leclerc. Very consistent drivers. You have, and what's the difference between that fight now between the McLarens and the Ferraris?
The Ricardo's missing.
Is Ricardo's missing. Same thing with AlphaTauri, which is the team right behind them. What's missing?
Yuki Tsunoda.
Sonoda. You need two consistent drivers fighting for points every single race if you're gonna come out on top.
Yeah. So, all right. So then,
I feel like Wells every time Wells goes like, yeah. It's like he wants to say something, but he
So
backs away.
back to Aston Martin. Well, let's circle it back. Back to Aston Martin. They can improve the car all they want, and they are improving the car. It seems like they're focusing more on improving the car for this year because they don't want to be that team that came in with all the hype and are finishing at the back of the field.
which is what we talked about. Check out our video from last Saturday, right before, actually, right after the Baku qualifying. We literally talked about exactly this.
Right. But the drivers have to be there or thereabouts fighting because eventually, and like we mentioned, they can put all the resources in the car now and make it better, but they got to switch to the 2022 car eventually. So they can't put everything on this car. The only thing that keeps them up there is driver performance. And that means that Vettel, and it seems like Vettel's already getting the hang of it. And
Very
he's
much.
a veteran, 4-time world champion. I don't see him, once he gets used to that car, I don't see him, and that team is behind him.
Getting
I don't see him with a huge drop off as far as performance wise. Lance Stroll has to come through.
I don't even see it as him getting used to the car. I see it as him getting his confidence because that's what he lacked at Ferrari. He had no confidence, and now, he has a little bit of confidence going on to a track that is kind of basic in France. He should be able to perform there as well. It's a lot of 90 degrees. It's one big oval parabolica style turn. I think things are going to be looking up for. You're not always going to get 0 points from Lance Stroll in that car. I think things are looking up for
Aston Martin. I believe so.
and
Yeah.
they're looking down for McLaren, looking up for Ferrari. So our third place finisher, Pierre Gasly. I don't even know. I still don't know what to say about this stupid AlphaTauri car.
Stupid.
Yeah, because it's inconsistent.
The car is inconsistent, or the team is.
Well, the team. I believe more is the team.
You think it's more the team, not so much Gasly himself?
The car is the car. It's a quick car. The car is the car. It's just, again, it's drivers, it's strategy, it's engineering. I don't think it's the car. Obviously, Gasly's driving lights out, but I don't think that he's necessarily making that car any better than what it's supposed to be.
So, I think it's the team because they had a good race in Bahrain. Then he also qualified well in the Romania one, whatever, Emilia Romagna, blah, 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 blah. Okay. He did very well there. I mean, he did not do that well because on the first lap, he lost the win. Mm-hmm. So he had to go pretty much all the way to the back. Portugal, I don't remember how well he did, but it's been. Portugal was the race where they messed up his strategy.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Imola that messed up the strategy.
But this is a guy in that car that should be competitive.
Mm-hmm. Competitive where?
Competitive. He should be fighting. He should be fighting Lando Leclerc, which he was this race. He should be exactly where he was.
He's qualifying up there.
He is.
I don't know.
But so is Leclerc. But the car is just not good enough.
Why do you always have to mention Leclerc, though? But you can't just focus on another driver.
Oh, my God. Speaking of fourth place, speaking of Leclerc.
We're talking about Ferrari here. Who's the number one driver of Ferrari right now?
Carlos Sainz. So Charles Leclerc was fourth. Lando Norris fifth.
Haters!
Fernando Alonso sixth. I think that was just a function of everybody going out. Yuki Tsunoda seventh. Carlos Sainz eighth. Ninth, Daniel Ricciardo, and 10th, Kimi Raikkonen. Better luck next time to everybody else, right? I think that this was just a race with just a lot of cars that DNF'd.
If you can finish, you're in good shape.
You're in good shape. As long as you can finish, you're in good shape.
Yeah, because look at Perez. He couldn't even finish the cooling lap. He had to pull the car to the side.
He was fighting, by the way, Perez was fighting a hydraulic issue the whole race. He didn't.
And look how he was with Hamilton.
Remember, he had to stop the car before he even went into the pits because they thought that car wasn't going to make it to the end of the race.
Yeah, they told him stop the car.
Yeah.
All right, and so just to kind of wrap this up, we'll talk Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen at 105, Lewis Hamilton at 101, Sergio Perez at 69. Nice.
Yeah.
Lando Norris 66, Charles Leclerc 52, Valtteri Bottas 47 points in sixth.
By the way, Pierre Gasly 17th, 7th, 10th, 10th, 6th, and 3rd. Those are his. That's where he's finished in the first 6.
17th?
Yeah, in Bahrain.
What the heck? I thought he finished higher than that.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Huh. That's what they had a pretty solid race in Bahrain.
No.
Maybe it was last year that we were thinking about. Driver standing wise, thankfully, and I'm going to say this as a fan of the sport, thankfully Lewis Hamilton also had his issues and could not just win that race and pull away from Max Verstappen, right?
Yeah. I mean, karma gets you.
I don't know if it was karma, but
no. I mean, I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying is that the universe tends to correct itself, and I think it did so fairly quickly. Yeah, thankfully, because honestly, that wasn't fair to Max. Max drove a hell of a race, and I don't think we've spoken enough about him, unfortunately, because he's DNF. But he was in control of that race from the beginning.
Perez too.
Yeah, but you know what? Max had a 5-second lead on Perez.
No, yeah.
And Perez was quick. And I don't know how much that hydraulic issue injured Perez
was defending.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, he had Hamilton on him the whole race,
and he managed Hamilton well because in the middle of the track, Hamilton was close. Within a second, but by the end of the lap, or by the one of the detention zone, he was able to balance that out throughout the whole race. Hamilton was behind him throughout the whole race.
Yes. Remember, Perez said he needed 5 races.
Yeah, and by also Perez winning this race, he jumped Leclerc and Norris in the standings.
Yep.
Well, as it should be, honestly, because.
But remember, that happened on Norris last year as well. He was pretty much through the first 4 or 5 races, he was in the top 3.
He was last lap Lando.
Yeah.
So constructors wise, Red Bull extends their extends their lead. They're up to now 174 points versus Mercedes is 148. So a nice, 26-point lead. Ferrari's at 94. McLaren's at 92. So Daniel Ricciardo, get your act together. So we can see a nice battle here. AlphaTauri, 5th at 39 points, and Aston Martin, 6th at 37. Thank you, Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah.
Alpine at 25 is the next closest competitor, and then it's Alfa Romeo at 8 with 2 points. Haas at 9th with 0 points, and Williams also 10th with
Honorable
0
mention to
points.
Alfa Romeo. They seem to get at least into the 9th or 10th spot. Yeah, so they're doing pretty well considering where they were last year.
I feel like they have been threatening for points multiple races, and then like something happens.
Mm-hmm.
They have been improving.
And did you see the start that the Bergamo Bullet got?
The Bergamo.
He got a
If he didn't
Crazy
have
stuff.
that accident in qualifying,
yeah.
ah man, my boy.
The bullet.
Guys, is there anything else to talk about? We've talked about the magic brake button. We talked about
Break magic.
yes.
Sounds like
Blue match. American Cancer.
And on that note, guys, you can find us on a lot of podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, and Stitcher. We're also on YouTube. What up? You can also find us at Jump to Start F1 on Twitter and also at Jump to Start F1 on Instagram. It's the same handle again, at Jump to Start F1. Drop by, say hello. That's it, right?
that's it.
See you guys next week as we preview the French Grand Prix.
The most exciting race of the year.
See you guys later.
Take